Awesome.
It'll work.
I have one in purple, my favorite color.
Yeah, they're great. They really are. They really are.
If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today.
They really are.
If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today.
They really are.
If you are a 10, something. We stand here today. Remember the dream. If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today. Kedosha. Must start to hear. Each one of us must sing the song. Each one of us must do the work. Each one of us must right the wrong. Each one of us must build the home. Each one of us must hold the home. Each one of us. Each one of us. Kahila, Kedosha, Kahila, Kedosha, Kahila, Kedosha. It's how we help. It's how we give. It's how we pray. It's how we heal. It's how we live. It's how we help. It's how we give. It's how we pray. It's how we heal. It's how we live. If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today. Remember the dream. If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today and remember the dream. If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today. Remember the dream. If you are a 10, then we'll need something. We stand here today. Remember the dream. If you are a 10, we stand here today. Remember the dream. If you are a 10, we stand here today.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are a community here on Zoom and on YouTube, and I don't think on any other streaming platforms. I think just the two. And it is so wonderful to see everyone's faces. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Rich and Wendy and Sienna and Morgan and Shelly and Pat and Stephen and Jerry. And I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Diana and Steve and Sharon. And if you haven't taken a second to introduce yourself, if you're on YouTube, in the YouTube chat, please do, so that we know who's here together as we come together as one community tonight, as our opening music described, truly as a Kehillah Kedosha, a holy community. Kedosha, from the root Kuf Daled Shin, Kadosh means holy, but when something is holy, it's the actual meaning of the word and translation of the root is to be set apart from. And so I want to notice tonight, as we are all here together synchronously, right? All here in real time, in person, here in our homes, we are a Kehillah Kedosha, because we are a holy community, and we are also a community that has made this time Kodesh, has made this time set apart, has taken time from our Friday nights, from anything else that we might, or that other pieces of our community might have going on, in order to be here together. And that is a beautiful, sacred, and holy thing. So I want to invite Wendy Elliott Vandeveer to light our Shabbat candles for us as we begin our service tonight. Wendy is the chair of our inclusion committee here at Or Hadash. And so we are together on page 4 and then page 5 as we light the candles. And Wendy, you'll need to, I think, tilt your candle down, or not your candle, your screen down ever so slightly. There you are.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. Blessed are you, source of light, our God, sovereign of all worlds, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to kindle the Shabbat lights. Blessed is the match that's consumed in kindling a flame. Blessed is the flame that burns in the secret depths of the heart. Page 7. Yaranai nai nai, yaranai nai nai, yaranai nai nai nai, yaranai 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 nai, yaranai nai, yaranai nai, yaranai nai. Yedid nefesh av harachaman mishoch avdecha el retzonecha yarutz avdecha kemo hayhal hishtachaveh el muhadarecha Yedidutecha mino fetzuf vechotam ayay yaranay nay nay yaranay nay nay yaranay nay 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 yaranay nay nay yaranay nay nay yaranay nay nay yaranay nay 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 yaranay nay nay yaranay yaranay nay nay yaranay nay nay yaranay nay nay the last verse. Higalena ufros chavivi halai atzukat shalomecha ta'ir heret michvotecha נגילה ונשמחה בך, מהר אהוב כי במועד בכוננו כי מעולם And so we're about to turn to page 37 for Psalm 29. And I want to invite us in tonight, either through words of psalm and prayer, words of poetry, or through words of songs that need no words. One of the most beautiful things about Kabbalat Shabbat is that so much of it is driven by nigunim, by wordless melodies, which we often apply words to, sometimes ruining a perfectly good melody with words. And so I want to invite us in to this space as we bring in Shabbat, as we bring in the Neshama Yetera, that extra soul piece that we are each gifted for these 25 hours of rest, that perhaps as we mark this week as Pride Shabbat, that we can envision that Neshama Yetera, that extra soul piece, as that piece that returns to us when we feel that we can most fully live into our truest selves. That piece that we sometimes feel we need to hide. That piece that we send away, except during those times when we can feel most at rest, most at whole, most in a place of wholeness, a place of peace, shalom, or wholeness, shlemut. That maybe that neshama yetera is not an extra soul piece at all. Maybe that neshama yetera is that piece that comes home to us each Shabbat and each and every time when we feel that we can be authentically at rest, unified, ourselves in our fullness as who we are. So page 37, we rise for Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid. I apologize for the setting sun behind me. Maybe I'll have to change my angle over here. There we go. Less setting sun, more walls. This time of year, Shabbat comes in a bit later, and I always forget that when I set up my computer in my office. Page 37, Psalm 29. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai, Kavod v'hozai, Havu l'Adonai, Kavod shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai, B'hadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai b'koach hayai, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover harazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel Levanon, Vesirion kemo vein re'emim, ay, Kol Adonai chotzev lahavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel hayadot, Vayecheso yeharot, Uvehechalo kulo omer kavod, ay, Adonai lama vu yashav Yoshev Adonai Melech Leolam. Adonai Oz Le'am Oyitain. Adonai Yevarech Et Amo V'Shalom. Yai, 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 So one of our members of our inclusion committee was unexpectedly called away this evening. And so I am going to invite a reader who doesn't know that they have a reading tonight to read. Shelley Rosenberg, do you happen to have your microphone plugged in? Oh, in just one moment. Great. Well, then I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute as I invite you to share a reading, Sha'asanu B'Tselem Elohim.
Okay. Starting at the top of this page? Okay. One of the most important teachings of the Torah is V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. We are commanded to love all members of the fabulous human family. In the creation account of the book of Genesis, God creates us B'Tselem Elohim, in God's image. That means all of us, no matter our race, religion, gender identity, nationality, economic status, disability, or sexual orientation, are reflections of the divine being who created us all. Therefore, when we act with love and compassion toward one another, we become holy. But holiness is not enough. Being holy means we become aware of our task to fix this broken world. The biblical prophets urge us on with their words, justice, justice shall you pursue. Pursuing justice means that we will keep working until our objectives are achieved, until we gain full civil rights for all, including marriage equality and non-discrimination protections across our country. Each one of us carries the divine spark within, and when these sparks come together, be they 2 sparks in marriage or many more sparks in community, there is that much more godliness in the world. Bigotry prevents the sparks from uniting, from joining with other sparks. Bigotry and hatred keep people in their shells, afraid. Bigotry is the absence of justice. So pursuing justice means dealing with bigotry head on. It means educating others about the diversity and beauty of God's creation. It means not being afraid of ourselves. It means letting our sparks shine as bright as they can. For where there is light, there is hope, and justice penetrates the dark. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asanu b'tselem Elohim. Praised are you, Adonai our God, source of all, who has made all of us in your image as amazing, awesome, and wonderful creations.
Thanks, Shelley. And when that is true, when we recognize that divine spark, not only in one another, but in ourselves, it is when our true colors can shine through. So I want to invite everyone to turn to page 41 for Lecha Dodi. And as is our tradition, Or Hadash, we will sing the verse that is at the top of each page until we reach the final page, where we'll do both the one at the top and the final verse. If that was confusing, don't worry about it. You'll follow along. And so we join together in Nusach Cindy Lauper. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela. So don't be afraid to let it show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Shamor v'zachor, b'dibur echad hishmi'anu, El hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet, v'litzchila lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem, nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava tchila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva horech, kumiuri, uri. Shir dabiri, kevod Adonai, alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Yaminu small, tifroti vet Adonai, tariti al yadish, ben parti venismecha, venagila lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. We rise as we face the entrances to our homes, our dens, our living rooms, in spirit or in body. As we greet the Shabbat bride, the Shabbat queen, perhaps as a gender neutral term. Boi v'shalom, ater het bala gam besimcha, u'v'tzochola toch emunei, am segula boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Likrat Shabbat, nay 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 nay, ya ya nay, ya nay nay nay, ya nay nay nay, ya nay nay nay. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. It wouldn't be Pride Shabbat if there wasn't a little bit of Nusach Cyndi Lauper. So I want to invite us to turn to page 57, to the Baruch Hu, and I want us to note that between the people who are here on YouTube Live and those who are here on Zoom, we again have made a minyan for one another. We have created a community a community that holds one another to celebrate, a community that holds one another to say Kaddish in times of mourning, a community that enables one another to rise in spirit or in body for Baruch Hu and check in with our call to worship. And also on this Pride Shabbat, we acknowledge that we have gathered to make a minyan, a community that acknowledges the pain, the healing, the recognition, the ability to see one another in our fullness, and also that comes to terms with the fact that for some, this has not always been a truth in our community. Last year, we marked, believe it or not, Pride Shabbat for the first time at Or Hadash. I know, seriously, first time. And as part of that, we collectively wrote a ritual of communal recognition. We sent out a survey to the entire congregation, inviting people to share their own first-person testimonies of the way they connect to Pride, or how they identify within the LGBTQ community, how they've experienced acceptance as a queer person or a lack of acceptance here at Or Hadash. And together we crafted a ritual of communal recognition. And so before we come together for the Baruch Hu, I want to make sure that we see one another. Ra'inu, we see you. And that we hear one another. Shamanu, we hear you. And so I'm going to share on this screen our ritual of communal recognition, and maybe next summer we'll have to rewrite it because each year our experiences change slightly. And so when we reach the parts in bold, we read those together. And I will go ahead and be the voice of every person at Or Hadash, holding the anonymity of folks who submitted by reading the first person accounts. A number of years ago, when the idea of same-sex marriage first began to be discussed publicly, my parents, not knowing their grandson would later come out to them, said they had no objection because it didn't affect their marriage at all. I was surprised due to their generation and have used that story to say why no one should object to same-sex marriage. Together, for the anxiety of rejection that we hold around our loved ones and the hope it may be met with acceptance and release. Shamanu, we hear you. Ra'inu, we see you. I am a queer Or Hadash alum, and it would mean a lot to me to be able to bring my partner to services and be met with love and open arms. I hope that can happen soon. Together, to all who seek affirmation and welcome in the eyes of the Jewish community, Shamanu, we hear you. Ra'inu, we see you. My son came out in an awkward way and struggled as he searched for the words and manner in which to share his feelings with his parents. I wish he had felt fully comfortable to speak to me in a more open way. It makes me sad that he had any fear around this. I am so proud of him and I love him unconditionally. I want him to be happy and at peace with himself. I would imagine coming out is hard, and I wished that I had created a space where he felt he could come out to me without fear or reservation. And together, and feel free to unmute as we say this together, and we'll just embrace the holy cacophony. Together, for all who strive to create safe spaces for those we love, and keep working and learning even when we falter. Shamanu, we hear you. Ra'inu, we see you.
We see you.
Spending summers in Cherry Grove, Long Island with a friend who served as the town doctor before and during the HIV epidemic, spanning unfettered gay celebration at dances through observing the gay plague before HIV was identified, to seeing people die. Together, to all who mourn the passing of friends, family, neighbors, lovers taken far too soon by HIV/AIDS. Shamanu, we hear you. Ra'inu, we see you. A gay friend who would not come out publicly until his parents had both passed away because of the extreme anti-gay sentiment in his hometown, Southern Orthodox Jewish community. He couldn't handle letting them down. I hurt for him all through the late 70s and early 80s because he couldn't live his life freely. Together, to all who fear rejection, scorn, and harm at the hands of family and friends, and choose to live lives in the closet. Shamanu. We hear you. Ra'inu.
We see you.
We see you.
And there's just two more. You may not consider this appropriate for sharing during the Shabbat service. I love when people give that preamble. So feel free to keep this to yourself. But I wish the TV show Pose were required watching for people who have no experience with the LGBTQ community. It might open their eyes to the struggle that kids and adults have experienced in trying to exist in our society. Together, for all who wish for a time where queer and trans folks of ages, classes, disabilities, and ethnicities are represented openly across visual media, so that we all see our lives and stories acknowledged.
And told.
Shamanu,
We hear you.
Ra'inu.
We see you.
My aunties, Shelley and Ellen, have been at the forefront of the fight for gay rights and gay marriage for the past 40 plus years. I grew up watching their rights given, then taken away, and I saw their amazing love for each other always helped them persevere through the hate and the ugliness they encountered. Even as a child, I remember having such trouble understanding how their love and happiness ever could be bad, or why anyone would have a problem with it, or why it would be anyone else's business. Ellen passed away now 1 year and 3 months ago, and my heart aches for her wife, knowing how much they loved each other and how much they'd been through together. And together, for we who stand as allies, supporting our LGBTQ family, friends, and dear ones, Shamanu, hear you. Ra'inu, we see you. And now as we see and hear one another in our fullness, and hold also the stories not told but held in our hearts, we rise in spirit or in body together as one sacred community for Baruch Hu. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed, and the blessing gives us strength and makes our vision clear. And the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. We can be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'yadav malach. I want to invite Sienna, if you are willing to share an English reading with us.
What page?
Here on the screen, Twilight People by Rabbi Reuben Zellman.
Oh, sure. Ready? Okay.
Yep.
Twilight People by Rabbi Reuben Zellman. As the sun sinks and the colors of the day turn, we offer a blessing for the twilight. For twilight is neither day nor night, but in between. We are all twilight people. We can never be fully labeled or defined. We are many identities and loves, many genders and none. We are in between roles, at the intersection of histories, or between place and place. We are crisscross paths of memory and destination, streaks of light and swirl together. We are neither day nor night. We are both, neither, and all. May the sacred in-between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, and widen our vision. May this in-between light illuminate our way to the God who transcends all categories and definitions. May the in-between people who have come to pray be lifted up into this twilight. We cannot always define. We can always say a blessing. Blessing are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight.
Thank you. ומעביר יום ומהביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרבים. Page 61, we read together. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us, even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us, even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us, even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us, even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us, even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. Blessed are you, beloved one, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 65, the Shema. Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom al levavecha, vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'aderech, u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kashartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chetavtam al mezuzot veitecha. We continue silently with one of the two biblical selections that follows. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We're going to turn to page 79 for Mi Chamocha. But first I want to invite Dan Schwartz, if you will lead us in a reading. Oh, where did it go?
Exactly. I'm right here.
No, I see you. I just don't see the reading. Where did I put my reading? Oh, goodness gracious. Hold on for 1 second. There it is.
Phantom reading.
It is a phantom reading indeed, but I have found it now.
All right.
So Dan, if you'll read for us for LGBTQ IQ people by Andrew Raymer.
Our people came out of Egypt, a mixed multitude, the spray of dividing waters, sparkling diamonds all around them. We stood together at Sinai, all of us, future, present, past, amid the rumble of thunder and the crack of bright lightning, to enter into covenant with the one who loves us, in whose shining image we are all created over and over again. We have wandered bleak landscapes, built flimsy tents of skin, and then houses of stone. We have planted orchards and vineyards, seen two temples rise and then go down in the surging flames, forcing us into exile. We have loved and lost, grieved and danced, transgressed and celebrated, hidden, suffered, thrived. And we gather here this day in the community of our people, a mixed multitude, and we sign out. We sign out.
I think it's sing out.
Yeah. Hear, O Israel, we stand together, all of us, descendants of the single first human created on the sixth day, and of our myriad parents down through the generations, too numerous to name. We stand together, link arms, and pray. Blessed are you, God of the universe, who sanctified us with the commandment to love ourselves and one another in all our varied ways, and blesses us with a diamond bright radiance that still ripples out from your first spoken words of creation. We come together.
Thank you.
Amen.
So we imagine ourselves standing on those diamond rippled shores of the sea, crossing through, standing at Sinai, walking together as an Erev Rav, that mixed multitude in each and every generation, from moments of trauma and moments of harm, moments of fear and moments of hiding, to new moments at new shores of new diamond-studded seas, with the faith that they will part before us, and we again can walk through and sing. Page 79. Micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, micha mocha, v'helim Adonai. Mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, mika mocha, nedar bakodesh nora. Tehilot osei fele nora. Tehilot osei fele. Malchutecha rauvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe ze Eli anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל. Page 81. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Everything's gonna be all right. 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 Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzeitenu vo'enu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch ata Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'al Yerushalayim. Spirit and or body, we rise for Vashamru on page 85. Vashamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vashamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We remain just as we are now, as we turn to the Amidah silent for Erev Shabbat. The liturgy of the Amidah begins on page 91 and continues in either the Hebrew, the English, the Kavanot, and commentary below the lines. But however we make it through our silent Amidah this evening, in whatever way, is whatever liturgy you feel most called to tonight, we start together, reading together on page 88, the poem, the prayer at the bottom of the page by Rabbi Sheila Peltz Weinberg. Dear God, open the blocked passageways to you, the congealed places. Roll away the heavy stone from the well as your servant Jacob did when he beheld his beloved Rachel. Help us open the doors of trust that have been jammed with hurt and rejection. As you open the blossoms in spring, even as you open the heavens in storm, open us to feel your great, awesome, wonderful presence. We take a bit of time for our silent Amidah. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitei latecha. Ose shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'yimeru. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Welcome back. And so here in our service, we pause for some words of Torah, some words of an expansive Torah of justice for the LGBTQ community, for our entire human community. And we are just thrilled beyond words to welcome Morgan Selkirk tonight. And I want to invite Wendy Elliott Vandeveer, who's the chair of our inclusion committee, to introduce our speaker, who will share with us some of her wisdom and a call to action tonight, and action and advocacy. And so, Wendy, and as I add you to our spotlights here, I also want to thank you and your entire committee for your incredible work in bringing together our service and our program tonight. Again, even in the midst of this summer of people needing the biggest vacation they've ever needed in their entire life, that when we were meeting sort of in April or May to talk about Pride Shabbat, I think you spoke to me at my most tired I've ever been, saying like, oh, we're going to do something this summer? Right. This is important. We need to put this together. And with all of the energy that none of us have, you and this inclusion committee barreled forward to bring us together tonight. And I want to thank you so much for bringing us in celebration and in marking Pride again for the second year at Or Hadash. And so, Wendy, take it away.
Hey, thank you. So on behalf of the Inclusion Committee, I'm so delighted to introduce our guest speaker for our Pride Shabbat tonight, Morgan Selkirk. Morgan has worked in equal rights for over 20 years as an activist and a queer equity educator. Her concentration has been transgender justice for about 15 of those 20 plus years. As a DEI educator focused on LGBTQ understanding and equity, she has facilitated training and conferences for multiple organizations and companies. After becoming a fellow under the Union of Reformed Judaism's Jew v. Nation Fellowship in the North American LGBTQ.
Oh, it is definitely, I just want to call you out on the pun there. It is definitely Rejuvenation Fellowship.
Oh, Rejuvenation. Thank you. In North America LGBTQ leadership cohort, she began focusing on LGBTQ inclusion in the Reformed Jewish movement and has traveled throughout the United States, training synagogues, Jewish camps, and other Jewish spaces. She has helped shape policies and procedures within the URJ and externally among the spaces she works with. Morgan serves on the board of directors at Congregation Kol Ami in Elkins Park and co-chairs their LGBTQ inclusion initiative, which won a 2017 Berlin Award for an area conference the committee created on transgender inclusion in synagogues as a follow-up to their first successful conference on the broader topic of LGBTQ inclusion. Morgan currently works as Chief of Staff to State Representative Ben Sanchez, where she brings her activist roots to help generate equal rights priorities within state government. Let's all give a warm welcome to Morgan Selkirk.
Hi, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. It is really awesome to be here tonight. I do want to call out with that. I mean, thank you very much, Wendy. for that lovely introduction. And I do want to say, because she's here tonight, Shelley Rosenberg had a very integral part in those conferences that won the Balin Award as well. So thank you, Shelley. So hello, my name again is Morgan, or Mo in some circles, people call me that. And I use she, her pronouns. I'm here today to talk about Pennsylvania's LGBTQ plus legislation, where we are with it, and how we do better. I want to start by diving in a little into how a bill actually comes about, because I realize it's not common knowledge, and I'll try to put some of the puzzle pieces together for you. So how does a piece of legislation come about? It's actually a pretty lengthy process and doesn't usually happen overnight. First, the topic solidifies, whether it's through research or because you were made aware of something to be corrected or added onto an existing law. For our purposes tonight, we'll use Rep. Sanchez's recently introduced Bill 1582. House Bill 1582 is calling for the ban on the LGBTQ plus panic defense on our justice system, because stunningly, in 2021, it is still legal in PA to hurt or kill a member of the LGBTQ plus community and claim that you panicked because you found this part of their identity out. It is then possible, by saying this, that you can receive a lesser sentence or even completely go free. In this case, we knew legislation similar to this had been introduced prior to this legislative session, so we were not starting from scratch. We decided it was a piece of legislation that we wanted to tackle, so we built on older text and older legislation to bring it up to date and change the term of gay and trans panic defense, as it was previously introduced, to the more current term of LGBTQ plus panic defense, to allow for a broader scope and fewer loopholes. Once our research was done and the text was written spelling out the change in Pennsylvania law that we were looking for, the next step was to put together a co-sponsorship memo. What a co-sponsorship memo is basically a teaser to the actual introduction of the bill and helps to gauge interest in co-sponsorships from other legislators ahead of the actual introduction into the House. So this is circulated internally to all legislators. This can also happen in the Senate, but that's a separate process and what is often called a companion bill. Usually after this co-sponsorship memo goes out to all of the internal contacts with your initial push for support, you wait. A few more emails go out over about a month's time, and once you've gained enough legislators' buy-in, you move to introduce the piece of legislation on the House floor. Once it's introduced, it's assigned to a committee for review. This is where politics and power plays can come into the picture. Unfortunately, we find in the PA state legislature, this happens often. If they really don't want a particular piece of legislation to see the light of day, they'll assign it to a committee that makes absolutely no sense. For example, in this case, if this bill was sent to the Committee on Agriculture. But in our case, it was sent to the Judiciary Committee, which is hurdle number one, because that's exactly where we wanted it to go. Once in committee, it can be selected to review and recommendation for vote. It's important to note, however, that in Pennsylvania, not in all states, it's the committee chair's prerogative to choose which bills get considered and seen once they've been assigned. Committee chairs come from the majority caucus. Unfortunately, here in PA, this is where many bills die, or at least get stalled indefinitely. If you're lucky, the bill will leave committee and go back to the House floor for a first vote. There is a total of 3 separate vote counts that happen before a bill is considered passed by the House upon what is called final consideration. Right now, there are currently over 25 pieces of legislation that explicitly affect the LGBTQ plus community that have been introduced and stalled in committee because of the current political climate in the Capitol, and countless others that affect us in the periphery. One of those bills is the PA Fairness Act, a vital update to the 1955 Human Relations Act that is crucial to the community and our rights as citizens of the Commonwealth in housing, employment, and governance. The Human Relations Act of 1955 protected citizens from discrimination based on race, color, religion, ancestry, age, sex, national origin, and disability. What it did not do was protect citizens based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. It wasn't until 2015 when the original draft of the PA Fairness Act was introduced did this topic come up for an amendment to the current law. Since then, it has been introduced each session without being given a vote, despite its widespread support. There have been a significant amount of individual municipalities who have decided not to wait for the state protections and create non-discrimination policies of their own in recent years. Many, including Abington, Upper Dublin, Springfield, Ambler, and others, have protected their LGBTQ plus citizens within their municipalities, which is important and wonderful, and a strong show of solidarity, but without the umbrella protection over the entire state. What happens when you cross your municipality's borders? As if not passing basic human rights for Pennsylvania citizens wasn't enough, our current majority has begun, like in some other states, an attack on LGBTQ plus Pennsylvanians by way of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation. Currently, there are 2 bills introduced in the House that could literally wipe out all 25 plus pro-LGBTQ bills in a simple vote and stroke of a pen. One blatantly denies protection to people based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression, intentionally leaving us out in the actual text, and one explicitly attacks trans youth, specifically young trans athletes. These bills have real, lasting effects on real people. The anti-trans youth bill is nothing more than an attack on innocent children that could open up a can of worms even these legislators proposing the bill can't even fathom. It wouldn't just affect the young trans girls being targeted, but any girl that doesn't fit the socially constructed idea of what a girl is quote unquote supposed to be, which could spill into so many different categories, including cis girls who are tall or have short hair or are particularly masculine by social norm standards, from being subjected to highly invasive determination tactics right alongside the trans girls this bill was aimed at in the first place. These highly focused attacks at trans youth across the country, which 32 states, including Pennsylvania, have introduced, is nothing more than the new Bathroom Bill 2.0. Anti-LGBTQ plus legislators couldn't succeed with trying to stop trans folks from using the bathroom of their choosing, so they chose a new road on the same map. Their destination is still to suppress equality and rights for the LGBTQ plus community as a whole, specifically the trans community. So what are we doing about it in Harrisburg? We're fighting for basic human rights, for a better, more accepting and inclusive future for everyone in Pennsylvania. One way in which we are doing this is by organizing. The LGBTQ plus caucus formed to unify the fight for equality in PA. It is a bicameral group of legislators and key staff members, both within the community and allies, many allies, who work together to introduce legislation, understand the needs of the LGBTQ plus community, and what we can do to help in the Capitol. It's open to any member of the PA state legislature from both branches and any caucus. It is also the largest sub-caucus in the legislature with over 90 members, the majority of which are allies who believe in equal rights and the work that needs to be done to get there. I cannot stress enough the importance of allies for any cause, but specifically speaking for the LGBTQ plus community, allies are the key to progress in the state. I can talk until I'm blue in the face, spewing out statistics and personal stories of my experience, my spouse's experience, my friend's experience, etc. But when an ally speaks up and speaks out to people who might not quite be there yet, their voices are amplified. I don't know what it is or why. I have theories, but that's a tangent. So let me just say that without allies, we won't go to the finish line where LGBTQ plus Pennsylvanians are not just tolerated, but celebrated. So what can you do? Many things, from something as simple as speaking up when someone is being derogatory or mean, correct people's use of someone's pronouns if they're misgendering them, be an active participant in solidarity with the community visually. But the most important thing you can do is vote on every level, for every reason, at every opportunity. Local, county, state, federal, and everything in between. There is no election that isn't important in guiding PA to a more inclusive future. Do the research and send people to power who are not just saying that they will fight for LGBTQ plus Pennsylvanians, but who are actively doing so. Make sure you're intentional with your votes and speak out so that others can learn why it's important for them to do the same. Right now, it is an uphill battle, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Persistence and perseverance is key to winning this battle. As Jewish people, we believe in tikkun olam. But in order to repair the world, we must change the world. And to do that, we have to work together for all, not just some. Thank you. And I know we were supposed to have some questions and answers. I do have a hard stop at 8:15. So if at any point, if we don't get to any questions, or if nobody has questions right now, but you think of some later, please, everybody has, some people, the rabbi and Jules have my email address. So please just email
Probably
anytime.
Wendy and others.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, gee, thank you so much. And do you prefer Morgan or Mo?
I will take either. Mo is more likely.
Well, thank you so much, Mo, for teaching us tonight, for sharing a little bit of what's going on in Harrisburg, and for this call to action. And I want to open up the floor, as you just said, for any questions that folks have. If you are on a non-participatory medium, like say YouTube Live, please do put your question into the chat. As always, I am in both. I am looking at the chat and here on YouTube and on Zoom. And if you're on Zoom, just unmute yourself and ask a question. I would love to open up the floor for questions. And if no one has one to start out, I will ask one. And that is, what other than, I think that, right, giving us, right, voting and holding our elected officials accountable. Do you think, I want to turn the focus from legislation for a minute to welcoming in congregational settings, and welcoming in broader communities, because as you said, as Jews who believe in the concept of tikkun olam, of repairing the world, we have to change the world sometimes in order to repair it, that we need to disrupt norms in order to shape and place and re-norm new norms. And so I want to ask you, what is it that you have encountered in Jewish settings that that signals to you that a community is a welcoming community versus one that is not? Where do you find that our institutional blinders are sometimes, especially in Jewish spaces, to issues of justice and equality?
Yeah, that is, I think what is most important, well, it's twofold. I think it's a two-step process. One, you have to be willing to take a deep dive in your virtues and your bylaws and your signage and your forms and all of the written parts of congregational life. You have to take a deep dive and really see if you're being inclusive in those items. And it's often easiest to do by including those who it affects, because they'll be the ones that notice it the most. And that goes for every marginalized community, anyone who's possibly on the fringes. That's one. And then changing the culture is the hardest part, I think, is for some people who, and I don't think anything has to do with not wanting to change, it's not knowing how to change. So doing the work, putting in the efforts for speakers and for community openness to have that the questions are able to be asked at all times, to really change how people think when they haven't had to think that way before. If that makes any sense.
It does. Beautiful. Thank you. Questions from community?
I will say it's not always that questions come right away. Sometimes, later or tomorrow you'll think of something.
It's so true. I want to share a comment that came in the chat over on YouTube Live. Sharon and Steve write, thank you for your input and your fight for equality within the state legislature. So words of gratitude coming in. Sharon, I see a question from you.
So for those of us who do vote in every election, And for those of us whose state representatives do seem to be supportive of equality under the law for the LGBT community, what can we do? And the reason I'm asking is that on the federal level, I wrote to every single Republican during the impeachment. I emailed them, and what I found was they would not read because I was not one of their constituents in terms of living in their state. So how do we influence the rest of the state if our representative here in Montgomery County is doing what we'd like him or her to do?
So it's a great question, and one that is often asked. For one, I know it does seem that people might not be listening and they might not be reading, but the sheer volume of what they get, they have to record that they received a letter. They have to record what was put in the letter and what the topic was, and if it was for or against. These are basic necessities when you're in any form of government. It's legal to do that. And so whether you're a constituent or not, they are absolutely getting your letter and they're recording your letter. And whether the actual representative or congressperson is reading it, their staff is reading it, and then they're seeing it. And when volume matters in situations like that, the individual letters might be sifted through by staff, but there are handfuls that are picked to show, and then every single one matters because of the volume. And because the more volume, the more, that's how they know what's important to their constituents. And whether or not you're a constituent or not, it doesn't matter because it will count. Right. That's one with the writing the letter. And something I always say, if your representative is for the values you have, that's awesome. But maybe your friends isn't, and maybe your relatives isn't. And it's often an easy, and some people think they're not doing enough, but they're doing a lot by explaining to these people why it's important they vote in a certain way that aligns with their values. Hopefully they align with your values. But that is a very important part of the word of mouth is so important.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And Morgan, I know that you need to go in just a minute, and I want to know if there's a final word you can give as an answer to a question that Wendy posed in the chat, whether you can speak in more detail regarding how we can be better allies to the LGBTQ community. If you want to just, a couple words on allyship as your parting message to us.
I would just say listen and hold space for what they believe, and listening is really key. There's a saying that they say nothing about us without us, and that has to do with really including members of a group that it affects. So, for example, for the LGBTQ community, listen to what we have to say, everyone has to say, and believe in what we're saying, and say, and go forth in your world, in your life, remembering what is being said. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mo, for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. And again, just email me if you have any questions that come up.
Yeah, and we hope to welcome you face to face
Yeah.
at Or Hadash sometime soon. And as one of the, few out queer gender non-binary rabbis in Philadelphia, it is so nice to be seen in so much fullness in this community, and also to notice how much work we have to do, both in our Or Hadash community and across our broader Jewish community and our Pennsylvania community, to make sure that everyone is seen in their in our fullness and protected under law, as every Pennsylvanian should be. And so thank you for the incredible work you're doing, and thank you for taking the time to share your teaching with us tonight.
Thank you so much. And right before I leave, I am going to leave, but I do want to give a shout out, say that there is the Bucks of Montgomery County's first ever Pride Festival happening this Sunday at the Abington Arts Center, and I hope to see some of you there. It should be a really awesome event. It's free, and parking should be interesting, but other than that, it should be really, really great, and I hope to see you. And thank you.
And it's a great place to have a wedding. My wife and I got married at the Abington Arts Center 12 years ago.
Nice.
Nice place for Pride and nice place for a wedding.
Yes. Thank you so
Mom.
much.
Thanks. And I want to, as we come back into our service tonight, come back into our service through the lens of our prayers for healing, our Mishaberach L'Cholim, our prayer for healing and wholeness, is one of the moments in our service. And hold on, since we're going back into Hebrew, let me turn off the live transcript. There we go, because you don't want to see what it does to Hebrew. There we go. Our Mishaberach L'Cholim, our prayer for healing and wholeness, is one of the places in our service where we turn our gaze furthest out, where we see those who are most on the margins of our community, those who are in need of healing, those who are struggling with mental illness, struggling with all kinds of things that are causing them to be divided. Issues of physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, communal health, whether they are on a list or not, whether they are in our hearts or someone who we've never met before, but whose name strikes a chord with us when we hear someone else name them. And so I want to offer as a kavanah, as an intention on this Pride Shabbat, to hold in our hearts for healing all of those who are in need of healing, either in the LGBTQ community who have felt and will share a prayer for those who are victims of homophobia and transphobia in just a moment, and also those in our broader community who are in need of healing because they are broken in ways that cause them to cause harm. Because so much of the hatred that we experience in our lives, when we don't answer that hatred with love, it breeds more hatred. And so I want to encourage us to tonight, as we pray for healing and wholeness, to turn our gaze as broadly as we can, to build this world with love, this olam chesed yibaneh, that I will build this world with love, and God will build this world with love. And if we build this world with love, then we are in that place where we have changed the world that we hope to repair, that Mo spoke about tonight. So I want to invite people to share in the chat those who they're thinking of for healing and wholeness tonight as we join in our Mishaberach L'Cholim. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Tonight we're thinking of and sending our hopes and our energy for healing and wholeness to Sue and Dennis Courtwright, and Lefko, Michael Feit, Matt Alexander, Eric Griffin Shelley, Neil Berlin, Jules Mermelstein, Andrea Abrams Herbert, James Albert, Roberta Archibald, Arden Bell, Barry Bell, Carol Mueller Bell, Rabbi Deborah Bowen, Bill Conrad, Robin Cupo, Frankie Deaver, Faye Fishman, Marcy Fish, Brian and Joan Flaherty, Jared Ben Hiram, Billy Best, Marcia Friend, Eric Gershman, Jonathan Giannini, George and Gail Glansberg, Barbara Granger, Ed Grimes, Alberta Hall, Cordula Hamish, Chava Hurley, Michelle Kalish, Sharon Cass, Beverly and Howard Kaufman, Fran Kaufman, Richard Krassen, Elsie Lieberstein, Jonathan Loeb, Len McEwen, Robert Mueller, Anthony Nero, June Powell, Lily Nero, Lisa Nicholson, Riley and Thomas Pablo, Stan Pollack, Abby Rosenberg, Mike Rosenberg, Shelley Sanders, Bertha Schwartz, Margaret Steiber, Lloyd Suter, Lynn Van Engel, Isabel Vita, Brandy Waslewski, Stan Weckstein, Millie Weissman, Grace Zangwill, Eileen Zeff, and Dorothy Berlin. Misha Be'erach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. We add a Misha Berach tonight for victims of homophobia and transphobia. Misha Berach, Horenu, Avraham, Yitzhak, V'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, V'Leah, Yosef, David, V'Yonatan, Ruth, V'Naomi. May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Joseph, David, and Jonathan, Ruth, and Naomi, bring blessing and healing to all of us in our concentric circles of community who have felt or who feel the sting of homophobia and transphobia. We have been victims of verbal assault, street harassment, and physical violence. We have been misgendered out of malice, ignorance, and accident. We have been forced to perform and conform to genders that do not match our identity. We have been denied employment, promotion, housing, and educational opportunities. We have been made to feel other and unsafe in public and communal settings. We have been made to feel other and unsafe in Jewish spaces. We have a rate of suicide among our queer youth almost 5 times higher than among their heterosexual and cisgender peers. We have had our intimate actions criminalized and our unions made illegal. We have been denied service at restaurants, wedding venues, and bakeries. We have become estranged from family members and been made to feel unloved. We have not had access to restrooms and locker rooms that match our gender or been blocked from using them. We have been forced to choose to remain closeted or to cover our identities out of fear and discomfort. We have been erased and silenced in our history and sacred texts. In times of darkness, help us recall the words of your prophet, I am Adonai, your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Grant us the courage to hold our heads up high, to live into our truest selves, and to love openly, even as we move through our own processes of healing. Help us to overcome the specters of self-doubt and self-loathing that arise from the trauma of hate. Holy One, in whose image all humankind is formed, help to soften the hearts and open the eyes of those who lose sight of the divinity in their neighbor, so that we may break the cycles and the speech patterns of homophobia and transphobia that are so deeply ingrained in our society. And let us say, V'nomar, Amen. And just as we come together as community to support one another in times that are hard, we also come together to support one another in times that are light and fluffy and joyful and celebratory. And so I want to invite us as we prepare to raise up our cup overflowing with sweetness for Kiddush, to also share in the chat. Aha, we have a Kiddush cup. Thank you, Sienna. Can I spotlight you to be our official Kiddush cup here tonight too? Awesome. To put into the chat to shout out anything that you are celebrating this week. Any birthdays, anniversaries, b'nai mitzvah, new jobs, exciting things. Dan actually shared in the chat, lifting up this week, the vote in Israel's Supreme Court to strike down one of the provisions that barred same-sex couples and also single men from entering into relationships with surrogates in order to grow their families. And so a big win in Israel for LGBTQ folks looking to grow their families. Other things that we're celebrating this week. Shout them out, put them in the chat. Aha, Rich met with his cardiologist who gave him a clean bill of health, l'chaim. And we'll keep putting them into the chat as we rise in spirit or in body for Kiddush on page 119. Savrei chaverai, l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziyat mitzrayim. Ki eleinu karata ve'otanu kidashta la'avodatecha v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim l'chaim. And another shout out, Mazel Tov and a l'chaim to Dan, whose first cousin Michal Levi received her PhD yesterday in psychology from Bar Ilan University. And also I want to shout out that it is in my household what we lovingly call Celebration Week. We celebrate this week our anniversary, or celebrated this week our anniversary on the 12th, Rebecca's birthday on the 14th, mine on the 17th. So this is our crazy week in our house, but a crazy week for good reasons. And so for everyone celebrating something, l'chaim and mazel tov. So we'll turn to page 121 as we rise in spirit or in body for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol lateit gedula leotzer breshit shenatan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. As the hand held before the eye hides the tallest mountain, so this small earthly life hides from our gaze the vast radiance and secrets of which the world is full. And if we can take life from before our eyes, as one takes away one's hand, we will see the great radiance within the world. Kakatuv b'toratecha Adonai imlach leolam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We can be seated. And as we turn in our hearts and our memories to those whom we've loved and lost at this season in years past, and in the past month for Mourner's Kaddish, and in our Sidurim to page 131, I also want to call on Rich Davis to share a reading, our LGBTQ siblings, a prayer of remembrance.
Oh God, remember today our LGBTQ siblings who were martyred in years past, those murdered by fanatics in the Middle Ages, those who perished in the Holocaust, and those struck down in our own city in our own time. Remember also those who took their own lives, driven by despair, by a world that hated them because of their love or gender. And in mercy, remember those who lived lives of loneliness, repressing their true natures and refraining from sharing their love with one another. Oh God, remember the sacrifice of these martyrs and help us bring an end to hate and oppression of every kind.
Thank you. And this week at Or Hadash, we remember we're marking the Shloshim, the month following the passing of Hal Goodman, brother-in-law of Ruth and Jules Mermelstein. And we're also marking the Yortzites, the anniversaries of the passing of Harry Mermelstein, father of Jules Mermelstein, Hyman Kanoff, father of Beth Braverman, Fred Goldstein, grandfather of Larry Stern, James Marmion, father of Jim Marmion. And in the coming week, because we will not have Friday night service next Friday, Morton L. Mandel, father-in-law of Peggy Mandel, Aaron Levinson, father of Dave Levinson, Bertha Brown, grandmother of Merrill Stern, Dottie Main, sister of Rhoda Gansler, Malka Pesach, aunt of Dan Schwartz, Max Davis, grandfather of Rich Davis, Rose Elfman, sister of Betty Kahn, Nathan Kritzer, uncle of Janet Karp, and Joseph Citron, father of Robert Citron. And Amy Gross is also remembering Herschel Cutler, a friend who died this week. And as well, I'm remembering Ed Lake, a friend who also passed earlier this week. And if there are others for whom you're saying Kaddish tonight, I want to invite you to share their names in the chat. And we also lift up all of those, especially in the trans community, especially in trans communities of color who've lost their lives at the hands of those who seek to do them harm, both those whose names we know because they're in the news, and especially those whose names we don't. So I want to invite mourners and those observing a Yortzeit to rise in spirit or in body for Mourners Kaddish, along with those whose tradition it is to rise for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei zechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman pariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yithalal, shemeh v'kudsha, brichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing for all of us. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And it is so great to be able to see everyone's faces and to be able to see everyone's names in the chats and all of that, to be together as one community. Just a couple of quick messages and announcements. Tomorrow night, sorry to be a downer, but tomorrow night begins Tisha B'Av. And if you haven't yet been in previous years, our Tisha B'Av observance is a really beautiful one where we weave together narratives of destruction throughout history with the chanting of the Book of Lamentations, Echa, in Hebrew, with overreads in English. And it is a really beautiful, I would say service, but it's a really beautiful ritual. Because it goes beyond being a service. It's a really beautiful ritual of memory, memorial, and collective mourning. And so that is going to be on Zoom tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. For those who are fasting, the fast begins tomorrow evening at sunset and ends Sunday evening at sunset. In the coming week, there's not a...
I just add, I'm sorry to
yes,
interrupt.
go ahead.
You have to register in order to get the link, I believe.
Yes.
So
yes, but it's like an instantaneous registration. But it would be useful, in fact, to register in advance so that you'll just have the link handy to click. Good point, Dan. Thank you. Yeah, it's a Zoom registration link. which also means that you can feel free to forward the registration link to others who you think would be interested. This coming week is a slow programmatic week here in the middle of July, except it is a busy week when it comes to things that have come home in the mail recently. There are two big mailings, one that got sent last week, one that got sent actually this morning. The first is the annual membership renewal mailing. Please do take a look and re-up your commitment to being an awesome member of this community. The reason I mention it is both because it's membership renewal season, but also because we have a brand shiny new web-based membership portal. We are now connected on, believe it or not, it's called Shul Cloud. It gets better because the one we migrated from was called Haverware. Yes, people really do create and name these software programs from Haverware to Shul Cloud. And the wonderful thing about Shul Cloud is that it is a very, very easy user interface to log into, to be able to do everything from pay bills, to register for religious school, to add yort sites to the yort site list, our lay leaders to be able to share notes with one another. And so do take a second and read the instructions for how to log into the web portal to make sure that all of your information is correct. If this makes no sense to you because you're not yet a member of Or Hadash, we'd love to have you join us and be in contact with either our membership VP, Penny Levin, who's membership at orhadash.com, or Nadine in our front office at office@orhadash.com. You can find me at rabbi@orhadash.com. Our email addresses are very easy to find and very easy to remember. The other mailing that went out in today's mail, and it's our high holiday mailing with schedules and Siddur borrowing request forms, information about Simchat Torah and Sukkot, information about how to volunteer to take an honor at services, all of that good stuff, youth and family programming, including a Rosh Hashanah morning hike. So do in fact take a look at your high holiday mailing. It came home, and at the beginning of the month of Elul, which is in about another 15 days or so, we will send home a very similar one by email. So please keep your eyes on that. This coming Friday night is a Friday night off in our every other Friday night summer Shabbat hiatus schedule. So there is no Friday night service on the 23rd. There will be a Friday night service outdoors on the patio at Or Hadash on the 30th. And every Saturday morning, including tomorrow, please join us for Torah study at 9 a.m., followed by service at 10 a.m. I think that those are all of the announcements that I could possibly make. And gosh, there were a lot of them tonight. I apologize. I thought it was going to be a light night. And I just want to extend a big, one more announcement. Wendy Elliott Vandeveer is going to be speaking on her art and activism Thursday the 22nd at 1:30 p.m. And Wendy, was the link to register for that run in HaKesher this week?
I haven't seen the link in HaKesher yet.
Okay, so then I will definitely put it out. We have a very quick window to put it in HaKesher this week, but I can also put it out over the Or Hadash Facebook page for people who want to register to do that as part of Everyone's Welcome. And that's the program with Jewish Learning Venture, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, a really wonderful program. Thank you, Wendy, for shouting that out. And thank you so much to you and your leadership and the Inclusion Committee for putting this event together this week. And so we'll close our service tonight on page 133 with Adon Olam. And the tune I was going to use for Adon Olam has totally gone out of my head. I don't know if it's going to work. No, it's not going to work. Let's just do Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher mala b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa b'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra Be'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora vehu haya vehu hove vehu yihye betifara vehu yihye betifara